All right, time for a couple of questions.
Senator Levin. I've got a question for the group and then one maybe for you, John Cornyn, or for Senator Moran, to both address this point. For the group, since you all said it was so important, I'm just curious, how many of y'all would commit to not touching the 60-vote threshold in the next Senate should Republicans retain control and this Democratic effort not succeed?
Well, I think, I don't know that we have time for everybody to answer that. Well, it was very clear in the very immediate past where we were on this. I think Senator Tillis pointed out that when we controlled the White House, the Senate, and the House, that the Republican president on around 36 public occasions called on us to change this rule. We didn't change it. We signed letters at the time. We've had opportunities to do this in the immediate past, and I think, frankly, the opportunity to discuss the merits of having one of the two bodies of the Congress have a slightly more difficult way forward, it will be helpful in sustaining that in the future.
And then a question for you, Senator Cornyn or Senator Moran, because you both addressed this point. Talk about the filibuster as a tool that allows for debate, allows for the opportunity to work with the other side, come to consensus, come to agreement on things. But it doesn't require that. You can filibuster from your office and never talk to somebody who's putting forward something you're filibustering. Should it require you to have those kinds of conversations in some format that you're saying it allows you?
Senator Cornyn?
Well, yes, there's a lot that happens here in the United States Senate that doesn't happen on the Senate floor. We're constantly talking to one another, eating meals with one another, talking to each other on the phone, sending text messages to each other. So there's a lot of different ways to communicate these days with your colleagues and to try to identify what the problems are that they have concerns about. You can hotline a bill. People can impose holds. Then it gives you an opportunity to identify who the senator is who has objections or changes that they want and to negotiate those. But yes, I think one of the most important things about the 60-vote bipartisan requirement is that it forces us to do something that doesn't come natural, but which I think the American people benefit from immensely by providing, by passing laws that will stand the test of time and enjoy broad support.
Senator Moran, do you want to add anything? Yes.
Senator, setting aside the 60-vote threshold, which I understand is a very touchy subject, I've had conversations with a number of senators over the years, including some who've spoken today, who are not happy with how the Senate operates. We hear that from both parties. Is there a circumstance where you think it would be appropriate to talk about the rules, the notion that there's fewer amendments voted on, that there's more one person holds on nominees, all of these things that contribute to the frustration of individual senators? When and where can you talk about it? Debate it?
Well, one, I think the senators are the problem, not the rules. Two, I also think if you're going to change the rules, that change should be focused on the long-term functioning of the Senate, not temporary partisan advantage. For instance, in 2016, when I was the chair of the Rules Committee, our whole conference had a conference discussion on the Republican side about would we generally be supportive of a rule change to take effect in the new Congress that would eliminate the 60-vote threshold to get on a bill. And we decided we would. I went to Senator Schumer, who was the ranking member of the Rules Committee. I said, here's a proposal we think would help if we got on bills, but we understand you'd be reluctant to do it now, so we're prepared to change the rules now to begin in the next Congress. When Democrats start making proposals like that, I think you'd have a reasonable reason to assume that they're interested in the long-term functioning of the Senate rather than the short-term advantage of the moment. And I don't hear any of that discussion going on. Yes.
Thanks, Senator. Are you making a distinction at all between the filibuster as a general 60-vote threshold and then carve-outs for specific issues? And if you all are committing now not to supporting any change in the filibuster, does that also mean not supporting any carve-outs whenever you may have?
Well, on the topic of the carve-out, I agree with Senator Manchin on this. He says when you start carving the turkey, you eventually eat the whole turkey. I'm not sure I'd say it exactly that way, but I think when you make one exception then every other thing is suddenly not as important as that one exception. The federal government taking over state election laws, not as important as the environment. The federal government taking over state election laws, not as important as how you deal with the pandemic. I just don't think it works. Frankly, I think it's pretty hard in a parliamentary question to change it with a one exception anyway. And even if you could, I'm convinced that that exception wouldn't last, and that's exactly what Senator Manchin said last week, that he didn't think any exception would last, and I don't believe it would either. Maybe the last question. Yep.